You are standing outside a house in the middle of August. No hum, no vibration, no compressor screaming against the heat. 12 feet below your boots, the air feeding through those foundations is locked at a permanent 55 degrees. Not cooled, not manufactured, not rented from a utility company, just physics. Silent, ancient, and completely free. A $300 system the cooling industry has known about since 1930. The same year they made absolutely certain you would never find out. Here is the number that dismantles the entire industry. At 6 feet below the surface, the Earth stops caring about seasons. The temperature locks. It stabilizes. It refuses to move. The Department of Energy's own laboratory measured it city by city. Chicago, 55 degrees, every single day of the year. Atlanta, 62. Denver, 58. Phoenix, 67. The desert, 120 degrees of raw punishment above the surface. 55 degrees of absolute stillness, 6 feet below it. That number never changes. It has never changed. It will not change after everything you own has stopped working. Now look at what you are actually paying for. Your air conditioner compresses chemical refrigerant, forces it through metal coils, extracts heat from the air, and dumps it back outside. It burns electricity to fight its own environment every single second it runs. For every unit of power it consumes, it delivers 3.5 units of cooling. Engineers call that a coefficient of performance of 3.5. A buried pipe, a simple tube of smooth wall material laid through cool ground. Measured across 47 installations worldwide. A coefficient of performance of 28.7. 28 versus 3. That gap is not an engineering curiosity. That gap is $29 billion a year in equipment, refrigerant, repairs, and service contracts. That gap is the reason you have never heard of this. Understand one thing clearly, this is not a new idea. This is not an alternative energy experiment dreamed up in a university lab. The Persians stored ice through 120-degree desert summers using this exact principle 2,400 years ago. The Romans engineered cooling channels beneath their villas. The Koreans ran air passages under floors for 3,000 years. Native Americans in the Southwest built semi-subterranean homes for 8 millennia. Every civilization that ever faced extreme heat arrived at the same answer, independently, without comparing notes. The Earth stores temperature. The pipe is just the path. The Amish never forgot. They carried it from Germany and Switzerland into Pennsylvania and Ohio 200 years ago and kept building it because it worked and because they never once asked anyone's permission to do what made sense. So what happened to the rest of the world? In 1902, Willis Carrier invented mechanical air conditioning in a printing plant in Brooklyn. His problem was not heat. He was trying to stop humidity from warping paper. The machine was never designed for human comfort. By the 1920s, Carrier Corporation launched a campaign called Weathermaker, repositioning air conditioning as the symbol of American progress. In their own marketing materials, and these documents exist, labeled passive cooling techniques as primitive and unsanitary. Then, in 1930, one sentence in one corporate engineering manual buried 5,000 years of proven physics. It read, "Earth contact cooling is suitable only for cellars and food storage." One line, one manual. An entire field of human knowledge reclassified as irrelevant. It was not an accident. In 1927, the first model mechanical codes were drafted with heavy participation from HVAC industry representatives. Passive alternatives were not banned. They simply did not exist in the document. The people writing the rules were the same people selling compressors. After World War II, the construction boom standardized mechanical cooling as the only acceptable approach. By 1980, fewer than 3% of American architecture programs taught any passive cooling strategy at all. An entire generation of architects, engineers, contractors, and building inspectors trained in a world where earth tubes simply did not exist. Not because they failed, because they were not profitable. The Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration Institute spent $47.3 million on political activities in 2022 alone. The residential cooling market in America is worth $29 billion a year. The average lifetime value of a single residential HVAC customer, over $15,000. Every earth tube installed is a compressor that never gets sold, a refrigerant charge that never gets refilled, a service contract that never gets signed. In 2019, ASHRAE Technical Committee 6.8, and the committee responsible for evaluating exactly these kinds of systems rejected a proposal to create a performance pathway for earth tubes. Their stated reason: insufficient domestic performance data. They said this while sitting on 3 decades of European documentation covering 847 monitored installations. When researchers analyzed the composition of that committee, 67% were direct representatives of HVAC manufacturers. The foxes wrote the rules for the hen house, and the hens never knew. In 2021, Florida building officials formally blocked an amendment that would have recognized passive cooling in the state building code. Every earth tube approved in Florida is a central air unit that never gets installed in a state where cooling bills run $400 a month for 6 months of the year. You do that math. Now here is what you can actually do about it. You do not need to tear out your foundation. You do not need to scrap your existing system. You need a yard, a side yard, a strip of land the width of a car along a fence line. You dig a trench 6 feet deep. You lay smooth wall HDPE or PVC pipe 6 to 8 inches in diameter in a run of 100 to 200 feet. Smooth wall, not corrugated. Corrugated pipe traps, condensation, and breeds mold. You lay it on a bed of sand for maximum thermal contact. You slope it at a 2% grade toward a drain point so moisture flows out and never pools. One end connects to an intake above ground with a screen. The other connects through a basement wall with a MERV 13 filter and an inline fan drawing 50 to 80 watts. What comes out the other end is air that has traveled 200 feet through Earth locked at 55 degrees on a 95-degree day. That air exits between 65 and 75 degrees. No compressor, no refrigerant, no chemical process, just physics. And that air is not just cooler, it is drier. The condensation on the pipe walls captures moisture. Humidity drops from 80% to under 50%. Materials cost roughly $300. The fan runs on what a single light bulb uses. The pipe lasts 50 to 100 years. Your central air unit lasts 15 to 25 before it ends up in a landfill. For high humidity climates, coastal Florida, the Gulf South, there is a smarter variant. Instead of running air through the buried pipe, you run a closed loop of water mixed with glycol. The liquid circulates through the buried loop, picks up the Earth's constant temperature, then passes through a heat exchanger inside your house. Cool air comes out. No air ever touches the buried pipe. No condensation, no mold, no radon concern. And here is why this version is untouchable from a legal standpoint. It uses standard plumbing fittings. It qualifies under existing plumbing provisions in every single state. No special permit, no confused inspector, no HVAC code that does not have a box for it. Because according to every building official who would try to stop you, it is just plumbing. The earth beneath your house does not care about committees. It does not care about quarterly earnings reports or industry lobbying or building codes written by compressor salesmen. It sits at 55 degrees. It has always sat at 55 degrees, and it will sit at 55 degrees long after every air conditioner ever manufactured has rusted into landfill. The Amish did not lose this knowledge. The Persians did not lose this knowledge. 5,000 years of human civilization did not lose this knowledge. You were simply never given it. Now you have it, and now you understand exactly why they made sure you didn't.